Be ready. 3, 2, 1, start. The 20.1% gross domestic product GDP growth for the first quarter of the fiscal year is lower than what was expected, not just by the Reserve Bank of India RBI, which pegged it at 21.3%, but also private forecasters. A Bloomberg poll of economists put this number at 21%. To be sure, the number may have been higher if the second wave of COVID 19 had not disrupted the sequential recovery which was underway. GDP growth in the March quarter was 1.6%. The latest numbers increase the likelihood of 2021-22 GDP growth missing the RBI projection of 9.5%. The Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee MPC in its August resolution upwardly revised the June quarter numbers and reduced its growth projections for the remaining 3 quarters of the fiscal year. There are 4 key takeaways from these figures. 1. To revive aggregate demand, the physical arm of policy making needs to get its act together. Not only is the government not spending enough, but it is also squeezing demand by a high indirect tax burden on petroleum products. While those who bat for the current conservative stance cite the need to keep the fiscal deficit in check, it cannot come at the cost of sacrificing growth and, more importantly, well-being of citizens. A fiscal boost needs to be timed with the festive season. 2. Both the GDP numbers and this newspaper's analysis of corporate results for the June quarter point towards the have-nots, informal sector, workers, and smaller sized firms suffering disproportionately due to the pandemic. If left unchecked, this will lead to long term destruction of mass incomes. To address this, policymakers must consider institutionalizing some kind of progressive mechanism which helps the smaller players in the economy. 3. It is important that policy attention is not swayed by the ongoing bull run in the equity markets. Both Sensex and Nifty reached new highs on August 31. With the Federal Reserve ruling out rate hikes this year, the party might continue in the foreseeable future. Buoyant stock markets are good for investors' confidence, foreign exchange inflows, and wealth creation, but they do very little to boost the macro economy. Also, investments in the macro economy are much more likely to bear fruit in the long run than stock markets, which at the moment are not just overvalued but also enjoying external tailwinds which will eventually ebb. And finally, India must maintain the current momentum in its vaccination drive, which is the key to preventing a third wave and restoring economic normalcy.